Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Shelby and I like to create content around art, creative thinking, and anything else that interests me. And today we're going to talk about books. Books. I have been in a reading moment. It has been a lot of fun. Today we're going to do a bit of a check-in on all the books I've read so far in 2023. As of recording this, it is the first week of April, and I keep all of my reading info on, what is this, Storygraph? Storygraph. And I have read supposedly 10 books so far this year. But yeah, let's just dive right into it. My goal is not to give you a full deep dive on them because that would take way too long. I just like to kind of go over, I always like to go what I recommend, what I not recommend. I will just give a bit of a preface. I love books about self-discovery, coming of age, family, communication, and all of that, and healing, or whatever that might mean. I'm big into, I don't know if I said fantasy. I love fantasy, whether it's a full fantasy world, whether it's bits of magic meshed into the world as we know it. Things like that are my go-to. First book of 2023 was To Shake This. I always thought it was To Shake Thy Sleeping Self. I'm seeing it's To Shake the Sleeping Self by Jedidiah Jenkins. I personally was obsessed with this book. I am a huge memoir in form of adventure stories. Jedidiah Jenkins went all the way from Oregon to the southern tip of South America, basically biked the entirety of the coastal, or the continents of North and South America. I personally was a huge fan, probably one of my favorite memoir experiences that I've read. I immediately gave it to my sister and was like, please read this, it's so good. Is it the most exciting thing in the world? Not always. I mean, but it's a memoir. Like, it's just a different mindset to reading it, but I just love it. I love it because you're basically just reading a bunch of journal entries. And yeah, I found it so interesting, so I recommend. Next book was The Pull of the Stars by Emma Donoghue. I found this book fascinating. If I remember correctly, yeah, it came out in 2020, and it's about, if I'm understanding correctly, it was a fictitious pandemic happening in Ireland, and they simultaneously timed, it was definitely worded like it was World War II, but the actual timing of the pandemic wasn't during World War II, like in real life. Or maybe it was the timing didn't really make sense. So it was all fictitious, but it was definitely like kind of like catastrophe on top of catastrophe, what that really means, like how people are handling it, all that sort of stuff. But this was all from the perspective of a nurse who worked in a maternity ward within the hospital that is, for the most part, like being absolutely overwhelmed with people who have the flu. So this is before having a flu vaccine as well. It was a pretty quick read. I do remember it being interesting. Would I recommend it? I don't know. There are a lot of things I struggled with. Yeah, I mean, but I got it. Like, at points you feel so connected to characters, and at other points it just seems brushed over, but also from the perspective of like the nurse is only going to get to know some patients but not all patients. Like, it did feel a little haphazard, and a character comes into play who ends up being a huge role in this story, and their role and dynamic confused the hell out of me. As a whole, a lot of it fell flat for me, so I don't know if I'd recommend it. Next book was The Lions of Fifth Avenue by Fiona Davis. I really enjoyed this as a page turner, mystery. Things are cool. It takes place of a family. It jumps between two time periods. The one is the 1920s and the other one is like 2004 or something, or maybe a little bit later than that. And they take place in New York City, and it's between generations, and it all also revolves around the New York City Public Library, which is really fun. it was just an enjoyable book. Again, page turner, a couple mysteries thrown at you. It does talk a lot about family struggles and how that can hurt generations later and all of that, which is always very touching and interesting to me. So it was definitely an enjoyable, like, I think a lot of people could enjoy this book. I read the Fearless series by Francine Pascal. I've read the first 3, and in 2023 I finished the 3rd one, which is called Run. I don't know if I've talked about the series before. I kind of got it because I definitely bought the book as a high schooler, and I didn't realize I'd purchased the first 3 books in one book. And so I think when I just saw the size of it, I was really overwhelmed. I was like, what do I do with this? And I never read it. And then finally last year I started reading it, and it's an action-y YA novel. I think high school me would have, like, early high school me would have loved it. Now as a 20-year-old, the writing is, in my opinion, it's for a younger audience. So, but it's not, to me, as enjoyable outside of that age, because the writing is just, like, very to the point, relatively flat, kind of just, like, runs you through the events, and then, like, move on to the next one. Next book is Dragon Rider by Cornelia Funke, and I'm not sure the order of videos, but I talked about in another one how I used this book to start getting out of a reading slump, because I was really trying to motivate myself to read more, and this book and another book were the 2 big reasons I was able to do that, I would say. And I did it because I saw in a thrift store one day. I remembered I had it as a child, but I couldn't remember the story, and rereading it was just such a fun experience. Like, I think it was what I was looking for in the Fearless series, being like a pretty not mind complicated, like, I wanted something easy. I wanted something fun, and I think I got that from Dragon Rider. I'm seeing it says Dragon Rider #1, so maybe there's other books to the series now. I don't know, but it was just fun. It was fun, it was fantasy, it was, like, feel good, like, all of it was good. So I really enjoyed that, and it really helped me kind of, like, take the stress, whatever stress I felt there was, out of reading, and kind of, like, reshift my focus to what I just enjoy reading over what I feel like I should be reading. Which the second book that did that was Felix Ever After by Kacen Callender, and this book had me in such the feels, like, such the feels. I mean, they're an art student in New York City trying to figure out their life, and trying to figure out some teenage drama. They are a high school student, as I said, and it's so good. It is so good and enjoyable, and I really think, like, anyone could read this. It's so good. It just made me so happy to read. Like, I was, like, of course in the feels a good bit, but loved it. I feel like I could do just, like, a deep dive on this book, but I would recommend that to literally anyone. Definitely get it. After I read those 2 books, it sparked a bit of a holy shit, I need to read right now because I'm just in a groove and I can't let it die. And I picked up 3 books from a local thrift store, and I read The Night Gardener by George Pelecanos, which, totally frank, did not like it. Wasn't feeling it. And then I feel like the story just was, like, for me, way too all over the place. There were too many characters, way too many characters. I was getting annoyed trying to keep track of how many characters there were and how it jumped around. And in the end, all I can equate it to is a bunch of men who couldn't not appear like they were the ones who knew everything that was happening and that they weren't in control. Like, that's all I got from the book in the end. So yeah, that's really all I have to say about it. I didn't enjoy it. That doesn't mean no one can enjoy it, but too much for me. Was not a fan, unfortunately. Next book from that same thrift store was Coyote, Cowgirl by Ansio, and I really enjoyed this book. I found it to be so heartwarming and, like, just feel good adventure, self-discovery, blah blah blah, all the things I tend to love about books. There were details about it I was a little, like, put off by, only because, like, to me there were certain things that felt like they were just, like, abruptly thrown in there, and like not like no one blinked an eye that, oh, that just happened, and then we just like moved on. So that was a bit odd. Like at points I would literally like physically be like, wait, that just happened, and no one called attention to it. So that was weird to me, but that happened so few and far between, and as a whole I still really enjoyed the story. That, yeah, I thought it was just like a lot of fun to experience and would recommend, definitely. And now to my last two books. I had such a positive experience with Coyote Cowgirl that I wasn't quite ready to read another like murder mystery similar to The Night Gardener. So I read All the Crooked Saints by Maggie Stiefvater. I actually loved this book. Like I actually love this book. Like I'm definitely finding a theme of books I'm gravitating towards, and I would say Coyote Cowgirl and All the Crooked Saints lean in that direction. Again, it's like our current world, but like parts of magic are tied into it. I think I said in another video, like I love when writing styles describe nature as a very like magical thing to be experiencing, like even if there isn't magic altering the world around you. Like I just love that style of writing. I'm so into it at the moment. And there is magic in both Coyote Cowgirl. I say magic in like loose terms, like it's some of it's seen as miracles, some of it's seen as powers, like, but some sort of element in it in both All the Crooked Saints and Coyote Cowgirl. But as a whole, both were fantastic. I would recommend both. Both heavily deal with like themes on family and generational issues, and that tend to get swept under the rug, and hiding things behind closed doors but wanting to appear perfect and blah 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 blah. They both have very intense themes of those, and are both very enjoyable in my opinion. And my last book was Say Nothing by Brad Parks, which I really wanted to read because I wanted to compare the three books I got from the same thrift store, but I was struggling, not because of the book. I was struggling because I'm thinking of coming to realize just my reading style has like drastically changed. Hello, editing Shelby here. I got so into talking about my reading style changing that I didn't even talk about Say Nothing. Like I said nothing about it. Comedy. Say Nothing I actually did enjoy. I struggled to get through it because it is like a 440 page book, which, have whatever opinion you want about that, it felt like a lot for the fact that the drama of the story happens on like page 2 of the book. So I was really struggling with the fact that I was going to need to read 437 other pages to like figure it out. That like I think was just in my head a little bit, but I actually did enjoy it. Like I genuinely did. I struggled for a bit, but otherwise I like flew through the book. Very pretty page, honestly, besides like probably 30 pages where I was feeling meh. It was a page turner. There is drama. I will just say it is a story about a federal judge's children being kidnapped and kind of being held for a ransom, which is presumably going to have something to do with his job and a ruling on a case. That really doesn't, you learn all of that within like minutes of reading, but it is very page turning. It is intense. It's like, you know, on the edge of your seat, and there's a lot. Yeah, I did enjoy it. It is good. It just, yeah, I think I've just and the ending had me literally crying, so I would recommend it. I've just, as said a million times over, don't think it's a book for me anymore, so that's that. Is all 10 books that I've read so far in 2023, and I have a lot more to go, hopefully. As a whole, like, I'm pretty happy with the selection I've had. At least half, I've had a very pleasurable experience reading it, which is, in the end, all that really matters. I read for fun, not really for anything else. So that is all. Thank you so much for watching, and what's like been your favorite book of 2023 so far? Maybe let me know. We have a lot more of 2023 to go, so I'm excited to keep going, keep reading, and yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for watching again, and I will see y'all in the next one. Bye.